Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Now this is the big chart, the main chart we're looking at, the big silver daily chart provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. Now there's any number of ways of drawing this trend line in. You can make it do a touch point down here, or you can make it up above here, but either way you draw it, it's bordering on that very, very important breakout point. It either has to go down or up very, very soon here. This trend line must be broken at some point. It's going to take us to zero in another year or two. So you can see that the recent test we did, I was predicting that we'd come up to the line and go down. I'm still expecting a big test down below here, a big drop off, maybe the buy point of the century. But you can see here very clearly we've crossed this point where $20 is now any price that hits $20. And this wasn't true even, what, 5-6 days ago? But now any price that touches $20 is a break of this trend line. Yeah, because we're down about 15 to 18 cents below it now. So that's really key. If we ever see $20 again on the price of silver, this trend line is broken. Very important. So let's get over to some of these stories here I want to cover. This one is one that just came on tonight. There's a couple of stories that just came tonight, and I want to read this one first because this kind of summarizes things, and then I want to show you and demonstrate to you the truth of what's in this post. This is Jim Quinn, The Burning Platform on Zero Hedge. And he quotes Alan Greenspan: "The true measure of a career is to be able to be content, even proud, that you've succeeded through your own endeavors without leaving a trail of casualties in your wake." Alan Greenspan. There you have it. The wisdom of two Ivy League educated economists. The other one is Bernanke about inflation. The wisdom of two Ivy League educated economists who are primarily liable for the death of the American middle class. They now receive $250,000 per speaking engagement from the crooked financial parties their monetary policies benefited, write books to try and whitewash their legacies of failure, fraud, and hubris, and bask in the glow of the corporate mainstream media propaganda storyline of them saving the world from financial Armageddon. Never have two men done so much damage to so many people so quickly and are not in a prison cell or swinging from a lamppost. Their crimes make Madoff look like a two-bit marijuana dealer. The self-proclaimed Great Depression expert Ben Bernanke peddles pablum about inflation being too low and posing dire risk to the economy, but is blasé that swelling the Federal Reserve balance sheet debt from $900 billion in 2008 to $4.4 trillion today with his digital printing press poses any systemic risk to the country and its citizens. Either his years in academia have blinded him to the reality of his actions upon the lives of real people living in the real world, or his real constituents have not been the American people, but the Wall Street bankers that pulled his puppet strings over the last 8 years. Now, there's absolutely no question about that fact in my mind. I'd love to continue and read the rest of this. I highly encourage you to read this. This is all very good. Jim Quinn lays out the case, the ridiculous arguments that the Keynesians that run the Federal Reserve, and these people are just absolutely nuts. They are nuts, insane. The ones who believe those theories, the rest of them, they're really just criminals. And they're using these Keynesian theories as a cover for their robbery. Now let me prove to you that this is the case. I'm going to show you two headlines that broke after the market closed tonight. The first one here, you can see 3 hours ago, ex-MF Global executives can tap more legal defense money, says the judge And the next one is Credit Suisse pleads guilty in tax evasion case. Both of these just broke. So let's look at MF Global here. There's the criminal, John Corzine, who robbed billions of dollars from investors. Let's read this. New York Reuters, John Corzine and other former insiders of collapsed brokerage MF Global can tap another $10 million of insurance funds to defend lawsuits accusing them of hastening the firm's downfall, a U.S. judge said on Monday. Judge Martin Glenn granted the request from Corzine and others at the hearing in U.S. bankruptcy court in New York, raising to $40 million from $30 million, the cap on what defendants can draw. Okay, so they've already burned through $30 million feeding their lawyers. Glenn authorized roughly $3.7 million more to pay the legal fees of defendants no longer involved in the case. However, the judge was irked at the request, saying that he had expected the initial $30 million to cover most of the litigation. Instead, it got you to the start of discovery, Glenn said. I'm startled. He's startled. This is a judge. This is just from the same cadre of cloaked crooks, lawyers and judges. They're all pulled from the same group, but he's startled. Please. More money devoted to legal fees means less is available to pay other MF Global creditors, while customers of the firm's broker-dealer unit will receive full recovery, etc. And it goes on. So nothing happens to Corzine, certainly not any criminal charges, and we can see now that these guys are burning through whatever is left of the money to pay off their crooked lawyers. Who knows? There's probably kickbacks coming from the lawyers. Who knows? These guys are all criminals. So there's no way of knowing what crooked schemes they have cooked up here. But on a very positive and optimistic note, we find out that Credit Suisse has pled guilty. So look, they went after a bank in a tax evasion case. So let's read some of this. Credit Suisse has done what no other bank of its size, and by the way, this is the mainstream, mainstream, mockingbird, bought and paid for fake media, the New York Times. Credit Suisse has done what no other bank of its size and significance has done over 2 decades, plead guilty to criminal wrongdoing, in a sign that global banking giants are no longer immune from criminal charges. Ooh. Despite public concerns that financial institutions have grown so large and interconnected that they're too big to jail, federal prosecutors demanded that Credit Suisse parent company plead guilty to helping thousands of American account holders hide their wealth and evade taxes. In federal district court in Alexandria, a Credit Suisse lawyer, Alan Reifenberg, accepted the plea agreement in a 45-minute hearing. As part of the deal with the Justice Department, the Swiss bank agreed to plead to 1 count of conspiring to aid tax evasion. Credit Suisse, which has a giant investment bank in New York and whose chief executive is an American, will also pay $2.6 billion in penalties and hire an independent monitor for up to 2 years. Quote, this case shows that no financial institution, no matter its size or global reach, is above the law. Attorney General Eric Holder. Credit Suisse conspired to help U.S. citizens. Okay, now here's the crux of it, people. Look at this. Credit Suisse conspired to help U.S. citizens hide assets in offshore accounts in order to evade paying taxes. So what's the crime? The crime is not paying Uncle Sam. Or actually, it's not even accused of that. They're accused of making it possible. There's no accusation that those people did evade taxes. It's just an accusation that they made it possible for people to do so by hiding their identity in foreign bank accounts. When a bank engages in misconduct this brazen, Eric, Mr. Holder, was it as brazen as Mr. Corzine, who openly robbed billions of dollars from his customers? This brazen, it should expect that the Justice Department will pursue criminal prosecution to the fullest extent possible, as has happened here. Boy, I'm impressed. The severe rebuke from federal prosecutors, as well as from the Federal Reserve and New York State's banking regulator, Benjamin M. Losky. Where was the Fed and Benjamin Losky on MF Global, who agreed to punish the bank without shutting it down? Oh, that's right. They probably filed friends of the court brief when they took the money that should have gone to the account holders in MF Global and they gave it to JP Morgan by saying that those loans take precedence over the account holders, even though JP Morgan knew when they were making the loans that those loans, there was no funds to back up those loans, but the court found in their favor anyway. Without shutting it down stems in part from Credit Suisse's failure to cooperate with the United States government. So there's the big crime: failure to cooperate fully with the United States government. The resulting plea deal will strike a blow at overseas tax dodging and the shadowy world of Swiss banking secrecy. You see that here, people? You see what the crime is? The crime is withholding, or even having the ability to potentially withhold money from Uncle Sam, which had become a hallmark of the country's financial system and the scorn of American policymakers. The deal also signals a shift in prosecutors' policy. Credit Suisse is the most prominent bank to plead guilty since Drexel Burnham Lambert in 1989. Isn't that interesting how fast they pled guilty? Sounds like somebody worked something out with someone, as opposed to MF Global, where they're trying to sue and get the money back for the common people like you and me. No, they're going to burn through all the cash that's available paying their lawyers. It took months of careful planning, recognizing that criminal charges could prompt regulators to revoke a bank's license to operate. The corporate equivalent of the death penalty. Prosecutors met with the Fed and Mr. Losky to discuss punishing Credit Suisse without putting it out of business and imperiling the economy, according to interviews with people briefed on the matter. So here's what it is. They're not going to criminally penalize any of the people who did that, and they're not going to put the bank out of business. They're just going to fine them a few $1 billion. The Credit Suisse plea won't be the last. The case, which comes some 3 years after federal prosecutors in Virginia indicted 8 Credit Suisse bankers, will provide a template for prosecuting other financial misdeeds. Sure it will. Both present and future. BNP Paribas, France's largest bank, is next in line to plead guilty. Let me guess. They help people not pay taxes. The people briefed on the matter said the bank, which is suspected of doing business with countries like Sudan and Iran. Oh, there you go. There's the crime. Not stealing money from people. Nope. It's going outside of the U.S. banker system. There's the crime that the United States has blacklisted. Will also pay more than $5 billion in fines, the people briefed on the matter said, and Mr. Losky is planning to penalize a dozen or so bank employees. BNP and Credit Suisse cases may also lay groundwork for criminal actions against American banks. Sure they will. The new strategy applies to American banks like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup, which are both subject to criminal investigations. Yeah, good luck with that. Prosecutors were not always so aggressive. In the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, the Justice Department did not file any criminal cases against Wall Street bankers' top leaders, and as fears of a financial panic grew, the British bank HSBC escaped money laundering charges in 2012, stoking an outcry that Wall Street banks have grown so important to the economy that they cannot be charged. And I've addressed that many times when talking about Bitcoin. I remember when Bitcoin market cap was only $1 billion, and they were all up in arms concerned about the money laundering that could occur through Bitcoin. But not too worried about the $1 trillion worldwide drug trade. Somehow that money gets laundered. Against that backdrop, prosecutors homed in on Credit Suisse case as a turning point in their pursuit of big banks. Credit Suisse's lawyers proposed a more modest guilty plea, etc. And the other thing I wanted to get at here was about the disclosure of the account holders, because one of the things they say, well, I can't find it right now, but one of the things they said here was that they were not going to disclose who the account holders were. Here it is. But the public in Congress' lust for Wall Street accountability may linger all the same. For one, the plea deal will not require the bank to turn over the names of its American clients, a hot-button issue in Congress. Credit Suisse has argued that Swiss law prevented it from turning over the names of its American clients. So let me ask you this question. How were they able to prosecute Credit Suisse for assisting American clients hide assets from American tax authorities when they don't know who the American clients are? Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's not the main point. The main point is this. I think you can see by looking at these two breaking stories that Jim Quinn is absolutely right. There's a double standard. There is selective enforcement, and there's one rule, and that is the government's role is to obfuscate and protect the criminals who are stealing from the common people, the middle class, and to go after anybody who helps anyone, whether it's the middle class or not, keep money from the government. So it's actually a common thread. It's a common theme. These people are all working for the elite, the banksters. There's a double standard. There is selective enforcement. And if you have your money in one of these institutions, these people are going to find a way to steal it. And once they steal it, they're not going to prosecute them for doing so. The only protection, of course, is going to be physical assets that are outside of their banking system, physical silver and physical gold. And we're looking for silver to break that $20 point to make a breakout of this long-term trend line. And then we'll see where we go from there. And we'll talk to you next time.